Hi, John. I'm Ken. Nice to meet you like this. I look forward to seeing a video of your work at some point. But I thought I'd give you a little bit of taste of what lessons look like. I work with videos like this. Find it very effective. Frankly, better than in-person lessons, although there are some advantages to in-person lessons. But as I think you'll see that these kind of videos can be really useful. So what I thought I would do for you is to go through some of those tunes on that last collection that I sent you, the Tune a Day, and give you an idea how to practice them and give you something to practice with. You can play along with me on this recording. I'm going to play my bass trombone today just because there's some duets, and this makes a better bass instrument, obviously, than a tenor trombone. So to begin with, looking at the very first one, the Lewisham Stomp. I don't know what that is. It looks Welsh to me. First off, we need a metronome, right? And you can get free ones on your phone, just download them. But something that's going to go tick, tick, tick. I picked about 120 for this one, but you could go slower or faster, but I'm going to do 120. I'm going to play the first note, which is an F. And I don't know how much you know, but that clef, the way it kind of curls around and has the two dots, is showing you where F is. It's called the F clef. And it used to be back when, thankfully not anymore, but it used to be that they'd put that on different lines. So we call that the bass clef, and that F is the second line from the top. But there was also a version where you put that on the middle line, and that was called the baritone clef. So luckily we don't have to read that anymore. But that's called an F, and that's how we know that. And so I recommend F, actually singing the note names as you move the slide. I call it singing through. So if I would go F, D, F, F, D, F, F, D, B, D, F, D, B, D, B, F, B, D, B, D, F, F, B. And that's a really good thing to do before you actually start playing so that you get the math worked out. And if you're not sure about a position, you can look it up, and you're not sure what that note is called, which is also very important to know what the notes are called that you're looking at. You can get that all sorted. So you've done the arithmetic, and so now we can just focus on making music. So I put my metronome on, and we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you can play along with that. Now I'll play the bottom part, so you can play that along with me. It says teacher, but it's not a whole lot more difficult than the other part. So you can certainly play along with that. And you can play the first part that I just did with this second part, so you can play duets. And you can, of course, do it the other way. You could play the lower part with the part that I just recorded a second ago. So here's the bottom part for you. 1, 2, 3. It's really important. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, off on the next one. You might have noticed that I'm not going out to sixth position. That's because I have a trigger on this instrument. I don't know if you have a trigger on your instrument or not. We can certainly talk about how to use that properly. But if I didn't have a trigger, then I'll do it one more time just so you can see what that would look like. 1, 2, 3. So you can see that's a little more awkward, and that's one of the reasons that's important for people that are playing the bass instruments like the bass trombone to have those triggers. Okay, let's get into the next one. Spring has sprung. I think 120 is a good place for that too. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the second part, 1, 2, 3, 4. And Next one is a fanfare. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fun. It's a fanfare, so a little louder, right? Probably. Okay, this barcarolle is Offenbach. It's famous. Normally how I play, maybe a little bit slower. So I'm going to just sing it through with note names. D E E D D C E E D D C E E D D. 1, 2. D E E D D C E E D D C E E D D. Right? That's a really good way to practice it. Really good to be able to do that before you actually play the piece. Because we don't want to be playing a bunch of wrong notes, and when we play, we want it to be as good as it can be. And this is a smoother, so not so ta ta ta, but la la la, a little more. We can talk about how to do that when the time comes. I think a little bit faster in the metronome. I'll put it to 140. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And that bird's eye is called a fermata, and it means hold it for longer than the written value. In much older music, it meant specifically to hold it for half again as much. It doesn't necessarily mean that anymore, but it's useful in playing a duet to think about how long that's going to be. And I think I went 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 off, so I just added another bar. So here's the bottom part for you. 2 bars in. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. There you go. This medieval dance, I don't know the piece. B, B, C, D, D, E, E, D, C, H, B, C, C, B, C, D, D, E, E, D, B, C, C, B, B. And the second part's all F, so that's pretty easy. So I don't know who things with this fast. Yeah, that's pretty good at 140. I'll leave it at 140. 2 bars in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Now I'm using my trigger for those C's. Maybe I don't want to confuse you. Maybe I'll try it again and I'll leave the trigger out and use the slide. 1, 2, 3. And here's the second part in case you want to play the first part with it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. That's going to sound great as a duet, I think. Jingle Bells. So this is written in 4/4 time, but I think normally you kind of think of it in 2, like not 1, 2, dun, 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 but dun, 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 dun. So I'm going to move the metronome down a bit, maybe around 80 or something. Dun, 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 D, D, F, B, C, D, etc. So I'll go Jingle Bells. 1 and 2 and 1, 2, 3. And then this next one, Now the Day is Over. So slower tempo, I guess. Maybe not quite that slow. I'm going to move it up to about 100. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. And then Merrily. 1, 2, I should go a little faster. So I'm going to put it back to 80. Dun, 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 dun. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And then back to bed. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so those are the first 10. Hopefully that's helpful and you can learn those pieces and get a start on that. What I'd recommend for your first actual lesson is to record some of those. It wouldn't have to be all of those. Typically, if you're doing more than one thing from a collection or a study book, do the most advanced ones that you've gotten to. So like if you got, say you got that far, then play for me, maybe Jingle Bells and Now the Day is Over. The ones that are really recognizable tunes, maybe Merrily. I think Back to Bed is just something that they wrote. I don't recognize the tune. Maybe you do. But that's the idea. Also, you mentioned scales, and you're right to consider that that's important. It's really just about knowing our notes. We need to know all our notes in order to play an instrument successfully. So, do you know any scales? I suspect you probably know the B-flat scale. I'll go over it for you. B-flat, C, D, E-flat, F, G, A, B-flat, A, G, F, E-flat, D, C, B-flat, and then of course play. If you know more scales than that, then play them for me, and I can help you with that. Ultimately, I don't know if you know this, but there are 12 major scales. But in fact, there's 15 key signatures because there's something called enharmonics. So we have, for example, C sharp major is the same as D flat major. F sharp major is the same as G flat major, and B major is the same as C flat major. Now, they sound the same, you're playing exactly the same slide positions and so on, but it's a very different thing in terms of reading music or even how you're thinking of it, to be thinking, say for example, if I was thinking of D flat major, be D flat, E flat, F, G flat, A flat, B flat, C, D flat, or C sharp major, C sharp, D sharp, E sharp, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B sharp, C sharp. Exactly the same sound, exactly the same positions, but mentally really different because all the note names are different and it would look very different on the page. So ultimately, and soon, I would like you to know all 15 key signatures, which includes all 12 scales, of course. And in addition to that, I'd highly recommend that you get into a set of like exercises. Something that is important for trombone players or brass players in general is increasing our range. So having high notes and low notes and being able to play loud and soft and different kinds of how we use the tongue, staccato, legato, all that kind of stuff. And there's a set of exercises by a famous teacher named Claude Gordon that I recommend for people. So I'll teach you that. And then there's collections like these, some of which have piano accompaniment, some of the ones I sent you before that you found too hard. We'll work through this collection, tune a day, get it done, move on to those collections with piano. So that's really fun to put the headphones on and play along with the piano accompaniments. And then there's also something called studies. So there's articulation studies. There's a book called The Arbans, which is really valuable and fun to get into, where you get to do sort of faster things, tonguing kind of things like. We learn to make the tongue go fast and also, to actually be moving the notes, moving the slide. And there's a book called Bordoni, which are vocally studies, which is the other side of it, rather than just all short notes, but to be able to play etc. To play really long, smooth melodies. So that kind of covers the gamut. And then in terms of repertoire, as I said, they have these studies and so on. Not studies, excuse me, but the repertoire collections with piano, etc. But there's also orchestral excerpts and there's also jazz music. And if you're interested in looking at that, that's kind of part of the whole picture. So your job, if you're interested in pursuing this, is to learn some of these tunes. If you have any difficulty whatsoever, just send me an email or even a short video, and I'll make sure that to support you through that development. Record some of what you're playing. Play me the B flat scale or any other scales, and or any other scales that you know, and we'll go from there. Have a great week. I'll look forward to hearing from you. Thanks, John.